If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you.
All right.
Back again.
Yeah. Tell me something good.
My son graduated from high school.
Oh, congratulations.
So,
it is graduation week, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like all my friends who are going through that. That's cool.
So we celebrated Sunday. He walked,
That's awesome, man.
And it was good. I'm happy for him. Sad he'll be leaving, but a good transition. And then he's been partying and hanging out, and
as he should.
Yeah, having fun.
That's awesome. So you guys are T-minus 3 months to empty nest?
Yeah,
basically.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm not sure what it will bring, but looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Okay, all right. That was something good. I asked for something good. That's something good. Awesome. Loaded up week, lots to talk about. I've had a good week. It's also been an intense week, but I've had a good week. Maybe the one thing I'll just bring up is I flew up just kind of 24-hour loop to New York City for a roundtable that was co-hosted by HFMA and KPMG. Tuesday was HFMA's not-for-profit hospital investor conference, and so they
in the city.
In the city. So the day before, they did this roundtable, kind of focused on the private markets, as that's become more of a focal point for innovation, potentially also for access to capital, just given all the crazy things that are happening. And it was a great session. Some really strong system CFOs were in the room, some great analysts, bunch of different folks from KPMG were there, and I was there kind of representing venture capital.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of soberness out there right now. I think people are excited about opportunities to innovate and, kind of leaning in and looking thoughtfully at private market opportunities, and at the same time feel a little bit hamstrung by just the amount of change that is, coming down the pipe right now. Right. And a lot of discussions around that and around just some of the clear systemic challenges that make real positive change very, very difficult in the industry. So it's always one thing, when we're on the outside as VCs just kind of talking about it. Yeah. But sitting in a room and just listening to a bunch of people actually, in the game, talking very soberly about those challenges it's helpful. It's helpful for me to know that we're not just totally speculating. Like we're
that's what I was going to comment. Is I think it is. It's hard for me in our VC kind of lean into change. We're supposed to invest in change. Kind of culture. It's hard for me to keep up and get my head around all the activity, all the shifts in policy and technology. Health systems have a very different culture for patient safety, and it's much more excellence and like high reliability because someone's life's at stake. That kind of culture is not optimized for fast-paced change. It's just not. And so I can imagine it would be, if it's hard on us, it's definitely hard on people that are trying to interact with. Even if they understand it, getting their employees and all their caregivers to even understand all the change that has to be made, it's got to be really hard.
Yeah, and it's also like a really stark reminder of, all of the challenges, all of the realities to operating in the healthcare environment today. One of the analogies that was made that I thought was a good one because it made me think a little bit differently about it was, sort of talking about some of these larger hospital campuses like international airports, in terms of like what the size of the capital investment, the size of the footprint, and just the reality that like when you land those things in a community, what are you just going to do? Abandon them? Like you can't. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so when you start thinking like theoretically about how practical is it to just easily move everything in a community to a bunch of disparate, different sites, right? Because they're optimized in all these different types of things. When you've invested in multiple international airports all around your region, it was just one of those analogies that made me think, yeah, like we would never think to do that with an airport, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And you could poo-poo it away when you're not in the seat of having made the capital investment. And
that's what I was trying to process through. The fixed cost capital investment is immense.
Right. Right.
And then technology changes, and we talk about it on a podcast, but they've invested hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars in the ground and decades, in some instances, of effort and time to build up those capabilities.
Yeah.
It's really difficult just to then
unwind
change
that.
it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just because you get maybe a slightly more advantageous margin, rate over here. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot that we're dealing with. So anyway, I always appreciate direct exposure to industry leaders to make me think about this in a more practical way.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, man, let's dig in. Starting with the economy, I think the first story is about our credit rating as a country. We already had 2 of the rating agencies downgrade us, and I think Moody's was the last one.
Yeah.
And so that sort of officially took us to, is it AA1 now from AAA?
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Yeah, it's one notch below the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, AA1.
Yeah, AA1. Yeah. It's downgraded due to large deficits and rising interest costs. So those are all sort of top of mind things. This is exactly what we're talking about right now in the halls of the House and Senate as they work on the reconciliation bill that's moved through the House. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I mean, it hadn't. So talk about the roundtable that I was in. It was Monday morning. This news came out on Monday, and in that conversation, they were talking about how the cost of capital universally had just gone up, and it took me a second to connect the dots there. But this is what they were referring to, right? Mm-hmm. Like your credit rating goes down, your cost of capital goes up, right? And we're not just talking about for a sector, we're talking about for a country. Yeah. And so I've never been in the market when I paid attention to this kind of stuff to actually understand what this kind of thing could mean. I mean, have you thought about that? Have you thought about the broad implications of the overall cost of capital for the country going up? Have you thought of that before?
I mean, I think that's the most important thing to consider, but I don't think that Moody's downgrade. So I have a different kind of take. I don't think Moody's downgrade materially changed the cost of capital in the U.S. I mean, I agree with all of the concerns that they put out here, and it probably makes sense to downgrade the U.S. The other 2 agencies had already downgraded us. But I don't think that there's a lack of demand for U.S. Treasuries.
Okay, we have like a next story we're going to talk about this.
Yeah, so. yes, we'll get to that story.
Which I think actually goes against what you're saying.
It goes against what I'm saying. But I think that investors knew these topics before Moody's told them.
Sure.
And they know it after. I don't know. I think it's more of a bad symbol of we're heading in the wrong direction. Okay. But I don't think the cost of capital changed between Friday and Monday because Moody's did this. I think we're heading in the wrong direction and we need to fix our debt problem.
Okay, but I mean, I just want to understand. This is not my area of expertise, but I think we do know that if you let's say you're a not-for-profit hospital, right? And if your sector's credit rating goes down, your cost of capital does in fact go up on your bonds. Like the credit rating is directly impacting your cost of capital.
I think if you are not, the less well known you are, I think the more important the credit rating is.
Yeah.
And so for an individual hospital, certainly, if you want to get someone in another country to buy bonds of this mid-sized not-for-profit hospital or something, they will look almost exclusively to the credit ratings. But I don't think there's a lot of buyers of U.S. Treasuries that are relying on Moody's expertise. But that could be wrong. That just was my that's just my perspective on it.
Well, It's happened, and we
The
are
cost of capital is going up, but I don't think because of this. I guess that's my point.
That's your point.
Yeah.
That's your point. You think this is more symbolic and it doesn't actually trigger any difference in the cost of capital.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next story, Wall Street Journal, the headline, weak auction of government debt jolts markets. The Dow slides, 30-year Treasury yield surges above 5%. So yeah, this was another one of those stories. I've been traveling a lot this week, so I didn't sort of deeply understand what was happening here, but the chatter on X was basically that it was a weak auction.
Yeah,
so
that's
that,
right. So that's more, to me, that's more important than the Moody's thing. And you're right, it's in the same direction, so you could group it together.
It's in the same direction, and it's during the same week.
During the same week, but
Right.
I don't believe that the Moody's downgrade triggered this week auction. But that
You don't
could
think
be
it
wrong.
influenced it at all?
No, I think it's the Congress and all the ridiculousness in DC that also is going on this week.
Yeah.
But it could be all of the above.
Yeah.
actually.
Okay, so let's just talk about what actually happened at the auction.
Yeah. So the U.S. Treasury sold, I think it sold 20-year Treasuries, but the headline is for I guess maybe the 30-year yield increased, but there was an auction for 20-year bonds, I believe, and it had less demand than typical, and then it was expected. And so, in order to clear the market, the way it's like a reverse auction, that the Treasury, it's not like it's an automated thing. They paid a higher yield than expected, and there's no question. I completely agree that we are issuing too much debt. We spend too much money, and we either need to cut back spending or grow our economy, or probably both. And so that is an issue, and you're seeing that being reflected in the bond market.
Yep. Next story, another Wall Street Journal one. America's fiscal situation threatens the good mood on Wall Street. So this is just commentary about the combination of the auction and the loss of the AAA rating.
Yeah, that's right. This is before the auction, I think.
Yeah, it is before the auction.
And so the stock market and the bond markets all reacted to it because it's symbolically bad.
So the yields. So okay, did the yields go up as a trigger against the credit rating? Like, is that demonstrably true?
The yields went up on that day.
On that day.
Yeah.
On that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a response to that news. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Shifting to Walmart. Well, just anecdotally, did you see where President Trump on Truth Social told Walmart that they need to eat the tariffs?
I did not see that, but
Yeah.
they are pretty clearly not going to eat the tariffs.
Yeah,
At least so far, I
No,
think.
no, I'm just telling you. He said, you made billions of dollars over the last 2 years. You should not be, presenting what the tariffs are or passing it on to consumers. You should eat the tariffs in all caps, I think.
Yeah.
Like eat the tariffs. And then it was like, we'll be watching you. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure I let you know that.
I'm happy I don't have that kind of profile.
Oh, man. Yeah. Okay, so Walmart to cut 1,500 corporate jobs in restructuring. The retailer plans layoffs and a reorganization aimed at trimming its expenses and speeding up decision-making.
Yeah, so this is sort of in the same thread as other stories we're seeing where this is not a tech company. The last few have been tech companies, but they're getting more lean and they're sort of cutting. This is mostly executive management, so it's not in the stores. But even though there's maybe growth in the economy, that they're sort of cutting back on how they're going to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 1,500 corporate jobs and maybe against an average of a salary of $250 a year. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a lot of money.
And I think they can they're getting more efficient maybe in managing the business.
Yep. All right, CNBC, Bitcoin hit a new record high of 112,000 as the rally marches on. That was updated 21 minutes ago, so it's at least fresh today.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bitcoin's very volatile. By the time you're listening to this, it could be up or down from that number. But as we're recording, Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high.
Yeah, and I mean, I am I think this is sort of the other side of the trade of the interest rates and concerns about U.S. debt. You're either going to buy gold or Bitcoin, depending on your age, really. Right. And so if people are concerned about the U.S. sort of fiscal responsibility and our ability to pay debts over the next 20 years, you might buy some Bitcoin. And it's such a small sort of market cap compared to treasuries that even shifting 0.5%, 1%, you start to really move the market.
Yeah. Starting to see calls again for Bitcoin to get to 1 million. Many of those calls out there, just sort of trying to play out over the next 3 to 5 years, look at all these trends, look at where everything is going. And, we're going to be in a multipolar world. It may not be dollar denominated. It may not be anything denominated. And so what will be something that's liquid, something that, doesn't have any nation state rails to it, or even corporate rails to it, that allows you to transact around the world, but also, is a recognized store value.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question. I mean, from my memory, Biden took a lot of money from Russia because we were wanting to keep them, make them play nicer in Ukraine. Yeah. And we had the ability with the SWIFT system to take it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Trump has made us more of a concern in the global kind of, if I was not a U.S. citizen, I think you need another set of rails. And so, yes, I think Bitcoin, whether it gets to 1 million in whatever time frame, I think it is the alternative to dollars over the next several years. So it's going to go up.
Yeah. So the reason why I brought up the million is to your point about the market cap being small, right? Because the only way that the market cap grows up is that the value of each Bitcoin just keeps going up, right?
Yeah. I think it has to go up.
It can be denominated into very, very small fractions. That's sort of the beauty of it, right? Satoshis. Right. And so.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's 3 trillion now. And so it's going to go up in market cap, I think.
Yep. Agree. What's 3 trillion? Microsoft?
I don't think Microsoft's 3 trillion, but they're 2 maybe.
I thought they were a little
maybe they're 3.
I thought they were a little more than that. Okay, moving into the VC rundown. Dazos?
Yeah, I think it's Dazos.
Okay, Dazos raises $25 million for customer relationship management platform, and probably should use $1 million of that to rebrand. Just joking. The behavioral health focused company will use the Series A funds to accelerate product development and expand support for its customer base. Florida-based, founded in 2021. And let's see, do we see here who led the round?
Radian. I think it's Radian.
Radian Capital. Okay. All right, that's a good name. Yeah. Let's see, anything here of note that makes it feel specific to healthcare in a meaningful way about this company?
Well, it's a behavioral health focused CMR, basically.
Okay.
So it's a tool for behavioral health practices, I think.
Okay.
So it's healthcare in that sense.
I mean, I just think it's interesting. I just wonder, like, why would one of these firms not use HubSpot? HubSpot's HIPAA compliant now, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think it's interesting, but look,
I think that's the question.
That's the question.
Are they able to focus on this one vertical and offer
something
unique features that are appropriate for that?
That's what I was asking.
I don't know what those features are.
Right.
I can imagine some, but I don't know this company well enough.
Right. Okay, moving on. Pulse2.com story. Rad AI, $8 million raised to develop generative AI solutions for radiology. So let's see here. The round was led by a bunch of health systems: Advocate Health, Memorial Hermann, Corewell, Atlantic Health System. Total funding is now up to $68 million, which is interesting. This $8 million round was probably all just strategics getting in and using it because they're getting a lot of benefit out of it and they want to be on the cap table. That's probably what that is.
That's right. I mean, they raised $60 million
prior to this
in the C. And so this is like an extension of the C to bring in strategics.
Yeah.
Probably $2 million each.
Yep. That was good for them. I mean, that's a really good sign.
Smart.
Right? That's a really good sign. And some of these are smaller on the regional side, but Advocate's not. Advocate's a big system.
Right. Roy Herman is smaller, but pretty good.
Yeah. Corewell too. I mean, quite good, but smaller. Right?
Yeah.
You know. Okay. Axios Pro exclusive. Biostate AI raises $12 million Series A. Let's see here. Generative AI startup using RNA sequencing data. And who is behind this one?
Acell.
Acell. Okay, that's a good one.
And what's interesting is they're not planning to bring new drugs to the market, but more like AI services to sort of service the market and provide support, maybe. So it's a different business model. I'm not sure I fully understand how they'll do that, but interesting.
Okay. I like the little note here about some of the angel investors. They've got Dario Amodei from Anthropic as one of the angel investors. That's good. That's a good name.
Right.
It's a really good name. All right, let's keep moving on. Hinge Health. Okay, so we talked about them last week as we announced that Omada was going to IPO, and Hinge Health had their IPO this week. Thankfully, the market had calmed down by the time they actually went out. They raised $437 million in the IPO, and you've got some details around how they performed relative to the price and the opening.
Yeah, so they came out in that sort of $28 to $32 a share, 400 and change as far as the capital raised. And what you want to see is the price go up after the first day, which was today, I think. And it opened much higher, so there was a lot of pent up interest in this. I think probably because we've been waiting for it.
Yeah.
And then it came down a little bit from that $37, $38 a share that was at the open, right at the initial bunch of people in line, kind of at 9:30, ready to buy. But it closed over the 32, the top end of the range. So I think a successful IPO. And from my point of view, the window is open, and let's go.
Let's go. I love it. Okay. This is an exclusive from the CIO Journal of the Wall Street Journal. Austin's reign as a tech hub might be coming to an end. Byline is regional tech hubs across the U.S. are losing talent as workers return to the coast, with Austin being one of the hardest hit. So this is noteworthy relative to our last episode because we talked about the Q1 Carta State of the Markets report, and it actually showed Austin being quite strong, even beating Boston for that quarter in terms of overall VC deal strength. So this is not a great headline, and probably a leading indicator of talent leaving versus actual deals getting done. Right, the deals probably trail that. But the idea here is that we're back in a window where it seems like we have these cycles, right, where an amazing set of technologies, launch, and there's a lot of geographic consolidation and centralization to sort of get all the talent and all the synergies that happen from people just bouncing off of each other. And then we kind of hit a lull, and then it just diffuses, and people decide to get arbitrage from living in other places. But we're at peak AI fever right now, and it is concentrated in just a few places, and certainly Silicon Valley is in San Francisco are top of the list there.
Yeah. No question about that. I think that in healthcare, we're a little bit, just because we're such a slow adopter of technology, that you have to look at other markets sort of. But I think probably the mobile phone as a new way to deliver applications and software was the last time this happened. Before that, maybe the internet.
Yeah.
And so you're like 95 with the internet, maybe 2005 with the mobile phones, roughly, maybe 06.
Yeah.
So it's roughly every 20 years, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would also say I feel like during the social boom, there was also a pretty heavy, concentration as well.
Yeah. So I think when there's a new modality, or I don't know exactly what to call it, but a new way to think about delivering technology, it's changing very quickly. And there's a lot of benefit from that just close proximity, because people are at a meetup at a bar, and it actually matters whether you get the information tonight or tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And it's that fast of a change.
Yeah. And also I think just the general posture around it. Like I mean, let's keep it real. Here in Nashville, I would say the predominant narrative is AI is hype.
Yeah. That's right.
Right? You know what I mean? That is not the predominant narrative in San Francisco.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right. And so if you are a believer, or not even a believer, you're trying to learn about it and figure it out, it's worth it to go to somewhere where
they
everyone
take it seriously.
you talk to is like, oh yeah, and you should look at this thing and learn about this, and I considered this other way to monetize it.
Right.
Where in Nashville, you get sort of a, maybe not a blank stare, but half the people are disparaging it. Like, yeah, it's not ready
that
yet.
real. Yeah, exactly.
And the other people are learning from you.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. This is a story that we've been quietly tracking for a long time, and it's finally starting to make some headlines. The SEC chair signals investor access to private markets could soon broaden. So this is generally all around the accredited investor designation, and how people are realizing how much wealth has been created in the private markets, and how that has been limited for the general American public. They can't get access to something until it goes public for the most part. And that's kind of not fair, right? That's kind of not fair. And so we have all sorts of, different opinions on how to do that. But the SEC chairman signaling that that's a big signal.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at some level, he's the one charged with setting the policy and regulating it.
That's right.
And I think the current administration is certainly of a mind of opening up more individual freedom and not so much like protecting people, because if you protect them too much, they can't get access to assets that are going to appreciate a lot. And it's all sort of interrelated in my mind, but as we have too much debt and we end up with interest rate being high, inflation being high, financial assets are likely to perform because they will benefit from sort of government interactions, and your salary is not going to be the same. So opening up opportunity for people, I think, is positive. Of course, I'm a VC, so I would naturally say that, but I believe it too.
Well, I mean, I think founders would also say this is a positive thing too,
yes,
right? I mean, because listen, a lot of the conversations I've had recently are educating founders, because they're not studying the market like we are. They're not having conversations with LPs like we are. Right. They're focused on their business. They don't understand the illiquidity challenges that are happening right now. They don't get it. They just know there's not capital for them. Right. They're taking it overly personal. And I think, any way that we can open the top of funnel to allow more capital to come in and ultimately get to the founders. Like, it's not even about the VCs, right? At the end of the day, it's really about getting more capital to these founders so we have more shots on goal. That is a great thing. That is a great thing if we can make that happen.
Yeah. And there's lots of ways to encourage diversification, get people to take smaller bets, and then that would force them, if they're going to deploy capital, to put it into more assets. There's I think, smart ways you can make it more likely to benefit a lot of people and less likely to cause really big problems.
Yeah.
And I think the new SEC is really looking at that.
And I think also from the moral perspective, I think it feels right now very difficult to justify not allowing everyday Americans to put money into innovative companies led by founders who are trying to make something great happen in the world, and allowing them to buy meme coins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you justify that?
I can't justify that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like there's something not quite right about that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Revolut CEO raises $250 million for an AI-powered VC firm called QuantumLight. 17 of the fund's deals to date have been recommended by its proprietary AI model. And it's basically, with the exception of the VC that's signing the deal, AI is making the decisions.
That's right. So, I mean, our firm and a lot of VCs today, I think you have humans that are trying to utilize AI to learn faster or maybe do deeper due diligence. They have flipped that, and the AI is the one that's making the decision, and the humans, there are very few humans, but the couple that are there to transact or, open a bank account. There's some things that humans have to do with the regulatory environment, but it's sort of flipping that. And it's the first time I've seen a VC firm being, manage the investment committee is effectively the AI or the group of AI agents.
I have to say, in the life of what we do as VCs, right? In the life of what we do, while the decision of which companies we pick is massively important, it's not where we spend the majority of our time, right?
Right.
It's not where we spend the majority of our time. And I'm not quite sure why we would think that AI technology can do a better job of diagnosing a patient. We're happy to sort of talk about that, like how the doctors are not going to be able to keep up, so we need the AI. I think it's interesting how, and at the same time, then there's so many things that the AI that the doctor does that are not the diagnosis. There's many things that the doctor does that are not the diagnosis. So I think there's an analogy here, right? I think you can see a place in the very near future where there's enough data and enough benchmarking to where LPs are going to kind of be like, hey, I expect you to be using AI to make your decision-making process. Like now ultimately I probably want you to like make the final call. But I expect you to have, an AI decision-making bot that's supporting you. I don't expect you to be doing this on your own. I don't expect you to have like just a bunch of human associates, reading all sorts of decks and, and I think that's going to be the responsible thing to do.
I think that's now. I mean,
it's not now. No. No. I'm talking about LPs. It is absolutely not now. It's not now. Now, should it be now? Maybe. LPs are not there right now. They're not.
You're talking to LPs now. I don't have a frame of reference.
They're not there. They're not there.
If you're saying that AI should be an important component in how the firm operates, I think that should be now.
Same page.
I think
I'm talking about it being part of diligence from an LP to a GP.
Yeah,
and it is not today. It is not today.
And I think it is. I mean, it's just true. You're exactly right. That if I'm saying it's good for these other organizations or professionals, it's just not right to say it's not good for my profession.
That's right.
AI is going to be very good at all of the roles that I do. And I'm hopeful that the combination of things that humans can do, that I can do, combined with things that AIs do better than me, will collectively create a better product. And I think that's true about doctors. I think it's true about VCs, almost every job. Where the line is drawn and like what the human should do and what the AI should do, I think it's great that QuantumLight is sort of pushing that boundary and testing it. I think it'll be interesting. I'm not at all certain that the human will have to be the one like with the majority control of the investment committee, but there's aspects that a human is good at, and there's aspects that humans are really bad at. Like when I lose money in a certain business model or in a certain market, I am reticent to invest there again because I have scar tissue and I'm self-aware of that, but it's difficult to actually be objective where it might be a great deal that I'm passing up because I lost money 4 years ago in something similar.
And look, hold on. That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, we've both led deals. We've both pushed deals through an investment committee, right?
Yeah. And
it's the rare deal that I can say I feel I was truly objective on it. I mean, in retrospect, I think back on them and I'm like, of course there was some bias in there. I can't always tease it out, But like, of course there was some bias in there somewhere. It doesn't mean I didn't evaluate it and I didn't run through all the paces and I didn't run through all the checks and all those kinds of things, right? But still, why did I choose this deal over another one, right? Was it totally data-driven?
No.
100%?
No, definitely not. And bias and intuition are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
Right?
and in fact, they're part of like what VCs pride themselves on.
Yeah, right.
Their gut. I mean,
Yes. And so if you're going to say you have a good gut instinct or intuition or pattern recognition, I think you also are admitting that you have biases.
Totally.
Now, maybe my intuition and biases collectively allows me to, on balance, make better decisions than make bad decisions. But it's not right to say that there's not some of both. And I think it's also just a fact that AI is already better than I am at certain aspects of the job. And it is improving much faster than I'm improving. So there's going to be a lot of things that AI can be utilized to make a VC individual or firm or fund or investment committee better. And Quantum pushing it to say like they're putting the AI on top is interesting.
Yep. Agree. So, I mean, this will be one to watch, right? I mean, the thing about VC is, generally speaking, it takes a long time.
That's right.
To see.
Yeah, we won't know for 5 or 10 years.
It takes a long time to see, but it is cool. All right, the AP, we're into policy now. The AP, Trump's beautiful bill spans more than 1,000 pages. Here's what's inside it. I thought this was a nice little breakdown. They did here. They talked about the tax cuts for individuals and businesses. They talked about parents and older Americans facing work requirements for food assistance and new work requirements for Medicaid. So this is kind of the big, topic of discussion,
right? Is
work requirements and how many people will roll off of Medicaid as a result of these work requirements. It's the number that's being estimated from the CBO is north of 7 million.
Yeah. And I think the date in this article is not correct. I think so they worked until like 2 a.m. 2
a.m, yeah,
last night. And one of the things that changed is they moved that date up to, I think it's January 1st, 2027.
27 was what I thought as well, yeah.
And what I have been sort of uncovering is it is partially a desire to encourage people to work, but it's also if you are not a documented person legally in this country, you might be working a lot of hours, but you can't prove to anyone. And so it's a way to get illegal, undocumented people off the Medicaid rolls in a way that is I don't know, more palatable on social media or in branding.
I mean, there's nothing in here that says anything about,
but it has that effect. But it has that effect.
It has that effect. Yeah. We'll skip that one. The savings accounts. So
yeah, that also got changed last night. The MAGA account, I think Trump required it be called the Trump account, but it gives every new baby born in the next 4 years $1,000 that is invested on their behalf. I mean, I guess it's good. It's extra spending, but it's going to an interesting place.
Yeah, and then a lot of funding for the border and for the Pentagon and for the Golden Dome.
Yeah.
And then the final thing is a tax on university endowments. Did this make it all the way through?
It was widely debated. I don't know that percentage is what I thought, but I think there is. Now it has to go to the Senate.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah.
But I think there is a tax on the investment side of endowments.
Okay. All right. So a lot packed into this bill. Mike Johnson worked very hard to get the House to get it across the line. They stayed up all night. They got the thing across the line. Yeah. So now it goes to the Senate.
Yeah, and I think on balance, I think I'm happier that they got it done than it just is chaos and there's no bill. But there's a lot of things that are going to be difficult in it.
I mean, look, say what you want. Trump controls his party.
Yeah.
and
That's
he
right.
and he can get.
He went
them,
over there on Wednesday and
basically
told them you're going to do this.
Yeah, told them what to do. Yeah, he is able to get them to do what he needs them to do. Right. Okay, so this was interesting. Like, in the show notes when we were running through all the stories, you had this New York Times article listed as something else, but apparently it's a rolling live story that the New York Times,
which is an interesting way to manage your links, but that's a whole different.
topic. So it's kind of like who knows? By the time we kick this out as a show note link, it might be something else this year, right?
Right.
But right now,
anything related to the Trump administration policy.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like a live feed of like all things Trump on this link. But right now, as we're reading it, the key headline is about the Supreme Court and their decision around President Trump's executive power. Really, the office of the president's executive power, but it's specific to President Trump because he has been saying that he should have authority over the independent agencies, and the Supreme Court agrees.
Yeah, I mean
which makes them not so independent.
Yeah, that's right. They are part of the executive branch, and I think it is certainly traditional, and I thought kind of healthy that many of them, not all of them, many of them have 5 like commissioners, like FTC, for instance, used to have 5 commissioners, and the tradition was that the president would name 3 of them, but there were the minority party, or the party that was not in the White House, had 2 of them, and they had no power to drive the agency, but they could dissent, they could comment, and I think it actually led to better policy. But Trump, one of the things he did early on, and the reason for this lawsuit is he excused, like fired the Democratic FTC chairs.
Let me ask you a question. Do just a specific question, because I'm not sure that it led to better policy. I think my experience is that it helped the public understand the potential downsides of a particular rule or action that an agency might make, and kind of served as a formal, up close and personal assessor and critique of what was happening at those agencies. And I think about this specifically with the SEC and the role that Hester Pierce played. You know, like she was all over all the podcasts. You know, and the whole crypto industry like sort of galvanized around her because she was able to articulate details that they could only like try to ascertain from all of the stuff they were reading. She would be like, no, let me explain to you how this is actually working. And she was engaging with the general public, giving them some pretty strong details on the inner workings of the SEC and what had actually happened that led to certain decisions. And I just found that, like, I didn't see Hester Pierce ever change anything Gary Gensler wanted to do.
She didn't have any power. But the information makes it's better to have
for the general
to,
public.
Yes.
And I think it built the case against Gary Gensler, you know, because that was how I thought about it, you know.
Yes.
And I guess the point I'm just trying to make is that was instrumental in this election, you know. And so if you don't have the dissenting voice that is able to actually provide up close critique and analysis and give you the backstory on how something actually happened, what does the opposing party have to sort of latch onto as it's building a case against the incumbent from a regulatory perspective? That's what I see as being really damaging.
That's why Trump wanted to excuse them.
I think that's why. That's why I'm making that point.
That's the reason he wanted to get them out of there.
Yeah.
I think that
makes for a weaker opponent.
It makes
in the elections.
It makes for a weaker opponent. I think that's right. I'm saying that's true. I'm saying I think it also makes for a weaker agency. Now, Gary Gensler,
I understand that,
chose not to listen, but that was his option.
Yeah, I get that point.
In the FTC, I think it's more clear because they have to go to court and fight. And I think they benefit from having the constructive discussion in the inside before they go in front of the judicial branch.
Right.
And if you show those people the door, you don't have the knowledge of what the other side is going to say.
Yep.
You don't get limited in what you can do. I mean, certainly FTC did whatever they wanted to do.
Sure.
But I think it's going to lead to.
But they lost a lot of cases.
They lost a lot of cases. Because Lanacon also didn't want to listen.
Right.
But the fact that they didn't listen to the dissenting opinion and change course is their option.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right.
But I think the institutions are better having a 2-3 combination, and I think it's not a good thing to not have that dissenting opinion.
I'm glad I pressed you on that because that's a good point.
No one cares, but I think it's going to degrade the agency's ability to actually make policy that functions well.
I think that's right. So anyway, the Supreme Court agreed with Trump.
Yeah.
And yes,
that's already been the horse has left the barn on that stuff. Done. Where it makes everyone nervous
where this is pointing.
The Federal Reserve is also
an independent
agency that is at least on the org chart under the Office of the Executive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't called out. It wasn't part of this case, but it is on the same trajectory or it gives Trump, hopefully he won't want to go there because Jerome Powell only has a year left and in my mind, there's not enough reason to do it. But I mean, I would make decisions very different than Trump makes on a lot of things. Hopefully he won't do that, but it gives him precedent to then make a case that he could remove the chairman of the Fed.
NPR. These Democratic governors are trying to curb health care for unauthorized immigrants. I have not read this, but I do know that California and New York, I don't know if New York is in here, but I do know that California and New York are both
and Minnesota
states that are very, very challenged by the federal policies rolling out and how they impact their budgets.
Yeah, they don't. All three, Minnesota is the third. They can't afford Medicaid as it is right now.
Yeah, they can't pick up the match.
Right. And so California is adding in a $100 a month fee so that you could pay to continue on it. Minnesota cut benefits, and New York, they didn't give a lot of detail about New York. And so I just wanted to put this to note that there's changes everywhere. Like we just covered the House is putting in work requirements. 3 of the most Democratic states are making changes. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and look, and these are really important states for healthcare, right? I mean, healthcare is sort of market to market and generally controlled by the states. So these changes have huge implications for our industry, huge implications for us as, VCs in the industry.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, especially if you have a company that's delivering services in these markets.
Yeah, the waiver programs are really challenged.
Yes. Yeah, like they have to go through all sorts of hoops now to get, to get a demonstration over the line now.
I don't think
basically
new ones are not going to.
They're not really going to happen. I mean, like they still can happen.
Yes.
But
that's right.
The bar is super high, right? The bar is super high. New York Times, 4 key takeaways from a new White House report on children's health. The report echoes many of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s talking points on ultra-processed foods and vaccines, but with some notable omissions.
Yeah, so this is a good summary, but let's talk about it the next tab because there's a couple of charts. So Kennedy put out this report on making our children healthy again, and it's a really sobering view of the state of our children's health today, which everyone knows sort of in theory that we are struggling, but there's a couple of slides that are really difficult, and he is focused on sort of food, chemicals, vaccines, and exercise and obesity. But if you go to maybe like page 7 or so, the one that, I mean, so this slide everyone knows, and people that are listening, it's a very common, we talk about it a lot, which is sort of comparing the spend, healthcare spend per person compared to life expectancy. And then, of course, the U.S. is spending over $11,000, and we have the worst life expectancy. That is always a shocking chart, but I've seen
we've seen it so many times. Yeah.
But keep going. The next one here. So this was surprising to me. So only 23% of our youth aged 17 through 24 are eligible for military service because of health problems. That just seems like a really difficult stat. Not so much because we need them in the military, although maybe we need military people, but that's a really bad sign of their future, because the reason that they are not qualified is that, they're overweight, or they have a drug abuse problem, or they have mental health issues, or they're, have multiple of those things. And I had not seen this slide before. So it's 32 million, teen kids. I mean, they're young adults, maybe 17 to 24.
Yeah.
But they're struggling.
Yeah. That's an interesting set of data that A, I'd want to dig into a lot more, and B, it's just kind of interesting. I guess knowing what I know about getting into the military, I do know that there is generally a preparation period before they go to boot camp, where they kind of get military ready, Yeah. So the bar is pretty high, actually, to even like enter into boot camp. You need to be relatively baseline healthy, and so it makes me wonder, whether that 23% really just sort of reflects
couldn't go right away.
Well, no, the 23% that's eligible, right? That makes me wonder. Okay, so 1 out of 5 kids might be kind of a performant athlete, and that probably would sufficiently qualify them, right? And then some other things, because we've talked about like the overweight bit, and like I'm overweight, but it's BMI, and okay, I don't know about that, and there's other things, you get my point.
That maybe is more hopeful.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess I would just say like, it's a good talking point. For sure, it's a good talking point, and it deserves to be dug into more. I mean, for sure, we don't hold up health readiness for children as we used to. That's for sure. There's no question about that. And at the same time, I know a little bit about the procedure for young people to get into the military, and they do have like kind of a staging that they do before they even actually go into boot. So this is more Maha stuff. So in approving soda ban for food stamps, U.S.D.A. reverses decades of policy. The Trump administration approved a first-of-its-kind waiver for Nebraska, allowing a ban on soda purchases through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's SNAP, starting next year.
Nebraska was the first one to get through the whole paperwork process. I think there's several states in process. It's hard to defend selling, sugary soda to not selling, giving it through this program, but it also is, kind of telling poor people that they can't have something that other people have. And so there's tension there, but I think it's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about it. So
I mean, it's to me, spelling out what SNAP is, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Okay, there's no dietitian that would say you should drink soda.
Right.
So, you know, to me, this one is a little bit more straightforward, right? You know what I mean? Now, if you want to make a different program that's not called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and it's about something else, but there's really no nutritional value in a Coke. I mean,
children, it's to keep children from malnutrition and starvation.
Okay. Well, then.
And soda's not going to help with that.
Then the list should meet the purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So this is actually one of those things that is not as controversial for me, but I understand why it's controversial. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. And also, that's a change we probably just need to kind of work through. That's a change we just kind of need to work through. So I don't have any issues with that. Fierce Healthcare, CMS deploying more coders, advanced systems to audit all Medicare Advantage contracts. Well,
yeah. So
I mean, yeah.
Right. So CMS has audited about 60 a year since Medicare Advantage was created. And they're using technology and hiring people, and they're going to do all 600 now. And, you know, not surprising.
Great.
Yeah, it's good.
Great.
It's good.
I'm all for that.
Yes.
Right. I mean, that's another one of those things where I have no issues with that.
Yeah. And if someone is doing something wrong, they should change it. If there's some confusion, then we should make it more clear.
Audits are good for our health. Right. I hate our audit.
Everyone hates the audit that they go through, but it's good in general.
It's good. At the end of the day, it's good. Right. And you're happy you go, you know,
I don't like it when I'm in it, but then I learn stuff and it's good overall.
Exactly. And you apply those things into your
next one.
You improve your overall protocol. Right. Audits are good. You know, listen. Another Fierce Healthcare. Senators have reintroduced bill that seeks to reform prior authorization in Medicare Advantage. Med Advantage getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
A lot of attention.
So no one likes
but aren't people just going to like stop doing it, right? Like if the margins are just not that great in healthcare, right? So I mean, if you just keep layering on more and more regulatory burden, people are just going to be like, at some point, they're going to tap out because it's the free market. It's like you're taking a free market program and you're just like continuing to layer this stuff on. And I get it. I'm all for using technology to do more audits than you were previously doing. That's one thing, but I don't know. It just feels to me we are going to see the result of this stuff is always you're just going to see people drop out of doing it, period. And it's going to mean less choice for senior citizens at the end of the day. I'm not saying that that's maybe not the right thing to happen, but.
So I think these stories are quite different, and maybe we'll agree, maybe we won't agree. The government's job, in my opinion, is to be the referee and doing the audit and making sure people are following whatever the rules are. Is exactly right.
We agree.
No one likes pre-authorization.
No.
But there has to be some way that if a procedure is very expensive or shouldn't always be used, that there's a way to question it. Maybe it changes names, but the Senate coming in and saying insurers can't do this thing that is kind of their job to do, that seems like government coming in and like picking sides. And I don't want them to pick sides. I want them to audit things and make sure it's followed. But I mean, I don't like pre-auth as much as anyone, but if you take that tool away, they're going to have to invent something else to control costs.
So is this Senate coming in and saying that they want to make it easier for everybody, like less burdensome?
They want to make it no more pre-auth process, or you can only do one a quarter, or whatever. They're going to put in limitations so that Medicare Advantage plans can't do pre-auth.
Yeah. Does it kind of feel like insurers have found other ways to use data to kind of adjust this on the back end and not necessarily have to do it on the front end?
I think they either already have or they're going to.
I think they have. I think they've already figured this out.
Yeah. And so maybe, I mean, that makes sense. The Senate is putting regulatory in after the industry already has moved on.
I think the industry's figured this out.
But it's not going to have an effect. I mean, we have a two-sided system where the payers have to control the spending and the doctors have to argue that it's medically necessary. That's, I think, what we want.
Yep.
Unless we want to redo the whole thing. But for right now, that's what we have.
Healthcare dive. The judge shuts down drug makers' 340B rebate plans for now. The district court ruled that the HHS does have the power to review drug manufacturers' plans to pay hospitals rebates instead of upfront discounts on 340B medications.
Yeah, so I can't remember. Johnson & Johnson, Lilly, a bunch of pharmaceutical companies sued over this issue, and it's been thrown out. They can't do that. They have to continue with the 340B process, which is good for health systems. You know, whether it is long-term.
Well, 340B itself is not the problem because ultimately it's supposed to benefit the patient.
It's supposed to. That's what the pharmaceutical companies are mad about.
Yes.
Because it doesn't always 100% of the benefit doesn't always stick with the patient.
That's right.
And there's a lot of health systems, maybe not a lot. I know several health systems that rely on money coming in from 340B.
Yeah, because the rates they get paid to deliver services don't actually cover the services.
Right. So this will at least like delay the process, and maybe we can figure out some resolution.
Fierce Healthcare, new Evernorth program to cap out-of-pocket costs for Wegovy and Zepbound at $200. So somebody did some health economics and figured out that this is actually, in the long run, an investment worth making.
Yeah, it'll maximize the revenue across the whole market. And good. I mean, when it first was out at like $1,200, $1,400 just per month, it's just not going to work. And so it's getting to a point now where all these medications, even flowing through Express Scripts, PBM, they're now at a much more palatable amount. No, maybe $200 is a lot of money for some people, but it's much less than what it used to be.
Yeah, and also, both Lilly and Novo have been dropping the costs on the drugs as well, anyways, right? So,
right,
I'm sure there was some good negotiations in there as well with both drug makers. Healthcare dive. Ascension still chasing financial turnaround after last year's cyber attack. The nonprofit health system says it has made progress towards recovering from last year's massive cyber attack. However, it still posted losses during the third quarter of its fiscal year. I was at dinner last night and I was trying to make the point that like cyber security and cyber attacks were nowhere close to having this problem addressed. Not even remotely close. Like we are losing. We're losing this war.
We are losing, and we're gonna keep losing. We have no way to even really protect our systems. They're very.
The vectors for attack are everywhere because it's people. It's not the network. It's people.
Yes. And so Ascension has been struggling, and they continue to struggle. They lost $580 million over the last year. Hopefully they're getting better. They seem like they have a lot of good trends, but they're still losing a bunch of money.
Providence CEO, state of healthcare, potential national security crisis as hospitals face stark economic policy headwinds. Yeah, this jives with some of the stuff that I heard in the in the roundtable.
Yeah, so
not those words, but this is the sentiment, right?
Yeah,
this is the sentiment.
Yeah, so Providence came out with their financials, and it was as bad as Ascension's. They lost a ton of money. They're smaller, but they lost a lot of money. And the CEO is, frustrated about that maybe, and making the point that it's systemic across the country, which I think is probably right. And it's also right that Providence is losing a lot of money. So it's sort of both. I think he went so, hyperbolic and emphasizing potential national security crisis, partially because it took attention away from his financials.
Well, but also, I mean, isn't this also kind of a way of saying we're already challenged, and everything that we see coming down the pipe is more challenging, right? So it's kind of like, and I understand this, right? As a CEO, if you're sober, you say, okay, we've got these challenges, and then your board would ask you, okay, how are you going to deal with those challenges? And then you got to tell your board, I can't even do that because I got to try to fight to stop this next wave of challenges from happening.
Yeah.
I got to work with the AHA or whatever, right? To do everything I can to try to stop this next wave of challenges from actually happening.
Yeah. And at some point, Providence is a big system. Ascension's an even bigger system.
Yes.
think they're probably too big to fail. I mean, I don't know what we would do if they actually fail. And so maybe it's his job to be sounding this alarm.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think the general public does not understand what is about to happen to the health systems across America. Right?
Yes.
I mean, like
that's right.
It already has happened to our academic medical centers. It's already happened.
Right.
It's not going to happen. It's happened to them already.
Yeah. And in the next year, it's going to happen to all the nonprofits and some of the for-profits. And
huge job losses.
That's everybody.
Huge decreases in service availability, right? I mean, these are massive issues for communities.
Yes. And then when we go to the next story, it's not like we have capacity today.
No.
So one of our listeners sent this in. Thanks for that. If you see stories, let us know. This was an op-ed in the LA Times by 2 emergency medicine doctors. And they are describing how bad it is in the emergency departments across the United States. With, what most of our listeners will know what boarding is, where you have no room to send the patient to admit them upstairs to the hospital. So they're in the ED for 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours. And then it just backs up like any supply chain. Then you can't put the new people coming into the ED because you have the boarders in there. Then they're in the hallway. And then they're pointing out that it's difficult to train new physicians because you're doing it in the waiting room and you don't have the equipment and you have whatever, the other people waiting, looking at you. And it's dangerous and not good medicine and not good training. And that's the state of our health system today before these new pressures come.
Yeah. And not all EDs are the same. I mean, I think particularly in rural communities as well as many like urban communities, especially ones where the population is, a concentrated amount of African Americans, the EDs are even more so, right? Because there's just a lot of trends around socioeconomically. This is how those populations engage with healthcare.
Yeah, that's right. And it's bad now and getting worse.
Yeah. All right, Fierce Healthcare. CVS set to scoop up nearly 700 Rite Aid stores. I think Walgreens is also buying some as well.
Yeah, Walgreens is buying the patient files.
Okay.
Which also is important.
Okay.
CVS is buying, there it says 625 stores. They're buying, I guess it's they're buying roughly 700 stores. Yeah. Kroger, Albertsons are buying a couple of stores, but a lot of patient records. Walgreens is buying patient records. So if you have stores nearby, you may not want the physical store, but you want to get the patient record, and then you need to try to convince them to come to your pharmacy, but you have all their medical history and their medications. Either way, I think it's healthy to have Rite Aid's assets go to other places that can serve these people.
That's a great outcome. That's a great outcome. All right. Watershed Health rolls out large-scale data sharing platform across Austin, Texas region.
Yeah, so this was a really, I think, optimistic thing to bring in after some of the not so optimistic things. So we all remember the HIE initiatives where the government was trying to encourage health systems to share data across a region, and it was not successful. I mean, maybe some regions got it done technically, but it didn't really change the way care was managed. This is a private effort in Austin, sort of public-private with the mayor, where they are really focusing on coordination across systems. So the data is maybe, table stakes, but they're trying to actually see where the patient referrals are and make the systems work more efficiently together, which is great. If we can do it in Austin, maybe we can do it in other cities, and it's much better.
I feel like I hear about these HIE
the HIEs
initiatives
are I haven't heard of any HA that works.
That's kind of my.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just putting my bias out there. Occasionally I feel like we see these, HIE startups.
Yeah, those are really bad.
Don't say that.
Well, I mean, relying on a government consortium to be your early adopter is just not a recipe for success.
Yeah, and then you try to run it through your head, like, how does this thing scale? How does it consistently make money? It's hard.
Yeah.
So look, Austin is a very, it's a very, very innovative region. It's a very, very innovative county, Travis County.
Yeah, and Dell Medical Center is really
amazing.
innovative.
Yeah, they do all sorts of amazing things as a county, right? And so I love that. I just don't see how it scales beyond Austin.
Yeah, I don't know.
MedCity News, how a new PE-backed RCM company plans to fix the transactional bowels of U.S. healthcare. I mean, come on.
So this is one where New Mountain is a decent size private equity firm. They're taking 3 of their assets and putting them together to create a new revenue cycle management company. And I have some hope, but I think they're taking sort of, probably 3 assets that are struggling and trying to get synergies and get some momentum, and just interesting to see. I mean, with the things going on at Change Healthcare with United, I think we need bigger RCM businesses to come up, and so it'll be interesting to see how it works.
Kettering Health suffers system-wide tech outage from cyber attack, cancels elective procedures.
Yeah, to your point, this is in Ohio.
Yeah,
it's a ransomware attack.
Let's move to pharma.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was kind of crazy. I mean, because we had just seen Novo do the partnership with, was it Hims?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hims and also CVS, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So they'd just done a couple of pretty innovative partnerships.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we had not maybe as closely tracked. I mean, I think we'd seen the sentiment, as we've been reading the stories about Novo versus Lilly, and it just feels like Lilly was just like kind of wiping the floor with a little bit there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And especially since Ozempic was the brand that led the way.
Yeah.
Like
they
that
were sort of
was
first out of the gate, at least
was
from
the
a brand
brand.
point of view. Yeah.
That was the brand. But Novo's just sort of lost ultimately to Lilly in this game, and so their CEO was pushed out. It's not a great moment for big healthcare CEOs.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean, I think he had done an okay job, sort of responding to all the compounding kind of off-market competition, but obviously not good enough.
Yeah. GSK's blood cancer treatment combinations are approved in Japan. The trial shows statistically significant progression-free survival results. It's a blood cancer treatment called Blenrep.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's not approved here yet, but really promising new treatment for cancer. It's great.
Yeah, it was conducted in patients with multiple myeloma, that's been a tough one for sure. So we always love to see that. MedCity News: sleep apnea relief in a pill. Apnimed drugs phase 3 data set stage for FDA submission. The obstructive sleep apnea drug reduced breathing interruptions in a phase 3 clinical trial. The once nightly pill, which is based on research from Brigham and Women's Hospital, activates muscles that keep the upper airway open during sleep. So is this the end of the CPAP?
Yeah. I mean, if it's in phase 3 right now, but it's promising. And CPAP is
rough.
It's hard to keep up with. It's some people can't even tolerate it, and so moving it to a pill medicine is really promising.
Yeah, Yeah.
A lot of people don't
I know
treat their sleep apnea because they don't want to deal with a CPAP.
I know a couple of people on CPAP, so I'm gonna make sure I send them this link because I'm sure they'll be thrilled to know that there's an alternative to that thing. None of them speak fondly about their CPAP experience. Right. Regeneron to buy 23andMe out of bankruptcy for $256 million. You know, I gotta say, I feel like I learned about Regeneron during COVID, and I think this is a really smart company.
Yeah, they're great. I think this is
really
good.
Really smart company.
I like them.
You know, and to me, this
it's a good outcome for 23andMe. I mean, they will. I mean, there's a lot of personal data there, but Regeneron will treat it better than anyone else.
Better than they did independently.
Yes,
actually,
that's right. Yes.
You know.
Yeah. So it's a good outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about this raises privacy concerns as Regeneron takes control of millions of to me.
The concerns were already there.
Yeah, not to me. I was worried about this like floundering company that can't actually secure the data. I'm like, okay, now there's at least it's a grown up in the room.
Yes.
No, I'm fine with that. So glad to see 23andMe now has a home, and we'll see where the data can lead that company.
Yeah.
Pfizer pledges $1.25 billion for a drug candidate in promising but competitive area of immunotherapy.
Yeah. So this is, it's a big week for new therapies. So immunotherapy in cancer is, very promising.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the science well enough, but this came out of China, which is kind of interesting. So they're licensing the technology from China.
Okay. Medtronic to separate the diabetes business. The medical device maker has been working to turn around the division over the past few years. Medtronic's, been through several of these kind of carve-ups over the life of its of the company, and here's another one.
Yeah, the diabetes business is not growing very well, and sort of maybe it's a cash cow, but they're going to spin it out into another public company, and I think that's probably better than they'll have two, a growing business and one that is not growing but cash.
Yep. All right, the next frontier to treat cancer: electricity. Scientists are testing electric fields and pulses against a range of diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis and brain cancer.
Yeah, so this is in the About Health and Us category. It's pretty scary to me, but people are using it to treat brain cancer. They have a picture of a guy, if you go down, wearing the cap. There he is.
Oh.
And it sends electrical current through one side of your brain to the other, disrupting cellular division, which, is kind of important. But cancer grows and divides much faster than other cells, so it slows the growth of the cancer, but I think it has to have significant other effects too. So I think it's promising that people are looking into this, but I don't know if I'd be the one trying it. So I don't know.
You're not signing up for electroconvulsive therapy?
But I mean, this guy who they interviewed, he has, a couple months left to live, and this could give him more time. So I guess it depends on your perspective, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, look, glio is a terrible cancer. So I'm all for as many shots on goal. Yeah,
that's right. That's why to bring people's attention. It's interesting science. But disrupting cellular division, I don't know how long-term a solution that is.
You ready for the AI rundown?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one, I sent you this on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is from thedeep.ai is the handle on the Instagram account. And it is a radiology doctor who is talking about how many years he has spent in school and in the field studying to be able to do what he does. And he is pointing out that this AI tool that I think you went and found out is a tool that is a company in Y Combinator right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Basically, did it right away. And so his 20 years, I think he talks about. His 20 years of practice is now immediately.
If people aren't watching, you should check out the video because it's a visual thing where he shows you the X-ray of a, I think it's a woman, whatever, a lung X-ray.
Yeah, it's a couple of lungs.
And to my eyes, if you're not a radiologist, you can't see very much there.
But it's great. He talks you through it.
Yeah, right. And then the AI overlays its analysis with like this heat map kind of thing, and it just jumps off the page, like very obvious. Like, I don't know, a 3-year-old could point it out.
Right.
And he ends with like, I'm going to lose my job.
I'm going to lose my job. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And many would say, no, it's going to help you go much faster and all these other kinds of things. And we've talked endlessly about how radiologists are, the probably the most adept, clinicians when it comes to adopting new technology, just because of the nature of imaging.
Yeah. But he's not going to be reading X-rays.
Not going to be doing exactly what he was doing before. That's right. All right. And this was a post on X. Andrew Wilkinson, who's the CEO of Tiny, he was basically showing that he has used Gemini 2.5 Pro in order to make a legal agreement. And his argument is that I just saved $5,000 doing this, and look, Andrew Wilkinson's like a real guy. It's like a legitimate person. Yeah. Okay. He's like, I just saved $5,000 drafting this legal agreement. And, Google Gemini 2.5 Pro ranks #1 on Legal Bench, which is kind of the benchmark for accuracy, 83.6% accuracy. So, you can kind of take your chances and clean up that final 17%, right? But there's a lot of, especially if you are a business person who has read a lot of contracts and you understand the basics of what they need to look like. Yeah. And this is just where we are today. Right. I mean, I think that accuracy number we have to expect is going to go up, right?
Yeah. And to me, it's it just brought home why you need to be paying attention to this stuff, pretty much all the time. I had lunch with a lawyer here in town, I think it was last week, and I was asking him about AI. And he said, we have this tool, I think it's called Herald, whatever. It's like a law specific one. And he's like, it's okay. It's not really worth doing. It has some value, but it's not good, but we have it in our systems. Like all of their stuff is in there. Yeah. And now a week later, like that entire business, Herald, whatever it is, AI, is no longer a thing. Yeah. You can just use the main model, Gemini from Google, but Grok is there, OpenAI, they're all in the top 5. Herald's not even on the list.
No.
And so there's no reason for a point system where just like these AI frontier models are just like sucking in businesses from everywhere pretty quickly.
I mean, that is kind of the scary part, right? Yeah. I mean, most of the commentary I saw on X, we're gonna run through like Google I/O.
Yeah.
But most of the commentary I saw about it was just like a quarter of San Francisco startups just got killed by Google I/O, right?
Yeah.
All right. Coming to a brain near you, a tiny computer. It's a Wall Street Journal story. In the next 12 months, and the number of people with a brain-computer interface is set to double. Now, from pretty low base.
Yes. But I think there's 4 different companies working on this. And so people know Neuralink.
Yep. We talked last week about Synchron, which is partnered with Apple.
Yep. And then because of that announcement, I think the Wall Street Journal then now covered the landscape, and it's a description of all the different ones, and they have different approaches, less invasive, more invasive, but it's coming, and it's coming fairly quickly.
Yeah, precision neuroscience is another one, and then paradromics.
Yeah. So I think it's good.
Oh no, this is good.
Yeah.
This is for sure good. Yeah, I mean we have so many people who have these limitations that brain interface computers.
That is good.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think people are going to use it for augmentation as well.
I know, but let's stick with the core use case here, right?
Okay. I was jumping ahead.
Making people's lives better, who are currently impaired in some way, shape, or form. That's fantastic.
Clearly good.
That's fantastic. Yes. Fierce Healthcare. Microsoft rolls out agentic AI orchestrator, begins with cancer care.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting, and it's healthcare use of an agent, right? So there already are cancer tumor boards where the patient comes in and you have all the different medical specialties that will advise the patient on how to treat his or her cancer. And so Microsoft has taken that concept and they have a bunch of agents with different specialties, and then like an orchestrating agent, and they're introducing it into the cancer space for the same reason that health systems have created these boards of humans, because the technology is changing incredibly quickly, and no one specialty can keep up with it. And so I think it's interesting, and they're partnering with health systems, and so we'll see how effective it is, but it's a good use of agents, I think.
Former Apple design guru Johnny Ive to take expansive role at OpenAI. OpenAI is buying Johnny Ive's startup in a $6.5 billion deal. How do you call something a startup when you buy it for $6.5 billion? Anyway,
well, when there's no product and 30 people, what would you call it?
Well, you're just buying him, aren't you?
You're buying him.
You're buying him.
But you're buying him for $6 billion.
I mean, it is Johnny Ive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? I mean, talk about a guy who knows what he's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's the designer of the iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
You know
I mean,
it's like the greatest device in the history of like humankind. So
yeah. But I mean, you have to call it a startup because there's no product. Like they don't have anything.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
I mean, it's just him and his buddies.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yes. That's a hell of a brand. That's a hell of a brand.
He was brilliant for a lot of reasons. He's brilliant, but he also was brilliant to leave Apple with enough time to get through his non-compete till now, because it probably was like 2-year non-compete.
Yeah,
and I think he left 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and he's been, I don't know what he's been doing, but waiting.
I mean, there's nothing left to say. I mean, the speculation is OpenAI is, trying to be the AI operating system, and they feel that they have to have their own device line. They cannot just be embedded in other people's devices. They're probably right. This is going to be incredibly difficult for them. I don't care that you have Johnny Ive. I mean, you're fighting everybody right now. So we'll see. We'll see what the combination of Sam Altman and Johnny Ive produces. But I mean,
it's trending towards glasses right now. Meta and Google, both glasses. He'll come up with some new thing.
I mean, but you're gonna look
glasses.
The distribution. Yeah,
kind of. It's hard to make it that much difference designing glasses.
That's right. That's right. That's right. OpenAI launches a new AI coding agent. They bought Windsurf, right?
Yeah, but they haven't
integrated it
yet. I don't think it's even closed yet.
Yeah.
It's sort of still in the process.
Okay.
But yeah, this will feed. They'll merge those two together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, dude. So this is okay. So when we talk about like LPs, right? I mean, I feel like we as GPs have not even had. I had this conversation last night at dinner. We have not even had the time to really sit back and say, okay, how should we rethink what use of funds for a startup should be? I think in the Valley they've fully done this, but that is not redistributed. That's not distributed to the rest of the world, right? Like you and I have not yet nailed what the use of funds needs to be, and obviously it's a going concern here, like this development of what's happening. But clearly, like in a very short period of time, software development is the cost is effectively going to go to zero.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have. So you're right. We haven't got to the point where we have discussed this and agreed on anything. My opinion is you still need the technical co-founder. You need one person, technical co-founder.
I mean,
but I think that's all.
Are you sure?
I mean,
are you sure that a technical co-founder can't be made as an agent? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure that a technical co-founder is not just the coding interface for a visionary founder, and how is that different from vibe coding? I know like kind of what vibe coding is able to do today, but like, just can't you see the technical co-founder as an agent that is the interface to all of the replets and the blah blah blah, and it kind of does all the things you're struggling with right now? Can't you see an agent kind of taking away that struggle for you and fighting with the different coding AIs and like dealing with the log files and the blah blah blah, and then reporting back to you, hey Vic, these stupid AIs, they don't listen. I'm working on it. I'll get back to you in a week. Like, I think that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to need a technical co-founder.
Okay. Whether it's one or two, I mean, I think you need a founder to figure out what
you need a founder.
What does the market need?
I think
and then
that
fit
part.
A product to them.
That part.
And
the context.
The understanding, like empathy with the user.
Yes.
And then bringing technical capabilities to solve that pain point.
And refining it, and forcing the refinement.
Yes. That function, obviously I'm biased because I invest in those people, but that function, I think, is how products are built.
Yes.
And launched.
I think the reality is AI is a fair distance from that level of human context. That's like the one thing that I think AI has a ways to go in the business world.
Yeah. So we're fighting over nuance. I
don't you think this is like really important?
Oh yeah. So then I think that I mean, I am the visionary side, right? So for me, it is really important in that iteration process to understand much more deeply what is the technical capability, what can be done. And I'm willing to pay some ownership in this company to have someone leverage all those agents, but know deeply enough how to work with them and push them and say, this agent is not creative enough to combine these two libraries together in some way that I can't fully explain. Now, that may just be because I don't understand it well enough and I haven't seen the product yet, but we're debating whether it's one person or two. You don't need anyone else. Like,
I think it's actually a pretty big deal if it's one person or two. So you're the visionary. I would consider myself in my own world a visionary, but also
I spent a lot
of my life as a technical co-founder.
Right, and then you have both.
I spent a lot of my life as a technical co-founder, okay?
Right.
And I also am the person who told you don't even bother learning how to code.
I know.
That turned out to be right.
That was right.
So I'm going on record now, and I'm telling you, the things that a technical co-founder does, I think an agent can do. Like when I think about what are the features, it's harder to get all of the market stuff and the nuances of like how you sell into people and all that part, much harder. Much harder. There's something messy and wet and organic and biological about that piece.
Yeah.
That, and EQ based and all this other kind of stuff. Technical co-founder is not that. Okay. You know what the technical co-founder is? An engineer whisperer.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's the translation between strategy and engineering. A good technical co-founder.
And an AI could do that.
Yeah.
An AI that's an algorithm, man. An AI can do that.
So we can take you down about, but what I think you were going is when, say, I put in $1 million in a startup.
Yeah.
90% of that money, I think, maybe 80%, is going to a team of developers to build the UI, build the, I lost my password. How do I get all of the table stakes that are not going to really make a difference, but you got to wire up. And that's gone now. You don't need that anymore.
No.
And then a bunch of it goes to customer support, billing, accounts receivable, all of those like operational things.
Yes.
And what I've been getting excited about, and I don't fully have it formed right now, but there's like this global state information state that, I mean, a lot of the time and effort and people cost is the marketing department asking the product department, how are we going to present these features? And then they send it off, and then the salespeople take it, and then they get inbound questions. And I think you could centralize that information store into some kind of global state, have it managed and sort of updated and improved continuously with AI. And then AIs are sort of interacting with that corpus in a way that's much more efficient. And if you have humans, but you don't need as many humans. And the humans you have are really efficient because they're not tied up in all this other inefficient thing. So the cost to get from 0 to 1, I think it's 90% less. And then the cost to go from 1 to 100 is probably 95% less, 99% less. And that's going to drive a lot of competition. So where I think it might be that you need 2 is you're going to have 300 startups all attacking the same narrow problem, and you might need to have the ability to move more quickly or iterate faster or use the tech better. But that's just because I don't understand how all the, like, you started from tech and came up to vision, so it's easier.
I was saying this yesterday. I think every person you add is a crutch that makes you use AI less. You're not as constrained.
Yeah.
You're not as constrained.
Definitely slows you down. There's no question it slows you down.
Okay, well, I thought you just said that another person speeds you up.
No, another person tells me, like, you shouldn't go this way. You can just cut right across.
You don't need a full-time person for that. You could glean that in community and all sorts. There's a million other ways you could get that insight. Yeah, you don't need a full-time person on the team to get that.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
All right. It's our new fun strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
OpenAI's biggest data center secures $11.6 billion in funding. The 8-building Texas project is a central piece of OpenAI's efforts to reduce its reliance on Microsoft for computing power.
Yeah, so they've been talking about this for a couple of months. It's financed now and going to start. And I think great. I mean, having this competition in the U.S. with Groks in Memphis and Google is all over the place, and OpenAI is going to have their own facility outside of Microsoft is good.
NVIDIA pushes further into the cloud with its GPU marketplace. The chip giant has created DGX Cloud Lepton, a new service that will make its AI chips directly available to developers across a variety of cloud platforms.
Yeah, so it is, well, this story and the next one, maybe I'm mixing up, but is this the one where they can weave in other proprietary chips as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so all the massive tech scalers are developing their own chips in addition to Blackwell and the NVIDIA chips. And so they now have opened up their architecture to allow that, which I think is smart. It keeps them sort of in their core with their whatever their sort of underlying communications tool is. That really is the thing that makes it all work together. If you don't allow Amazon and Google and people to put in their own chip, then they have to make a choice that's much harder.
Yep, agree. And this is kind of
This is what I was talking about.
Okay.
The other one is that they're doing a cloud service, I think, to allow CoreWeave and other, like, their own clouds to be sold to end customers, kind of competing with Amazon and all the cloud platforms.
Oh, okay. I misread that.
There was a big conference in Singapore or somewhere that NVIDIA keynoted.
Got it. All right. Google I/O, finally. And by the way, this is a long show.
Long show. Yeah.
But Google I/O, finally. We have put a link in the show notes. It is to a YouTube video from Google. It's already got 1.68 million views, so people are paying attention to it. And it is I/O 25 in under 10 minutes. So a very, very quick way to get a rundown of all the things that Google announced. I would say this was definitely the Empire Strikes Back, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like when this whole thing kicked off, you and I when we talked about Google, we said, Google invented this. You know what I mean? Right. B, like, their distribution, their brand, their cloud platform, it's going to be really, I know OpenAI is growing incredibly quickly, fastest growing product, maybe in history, all these other kinds of things. But we just should not sleep on Google.
Yeah.
Because they've got all the stuff. They've got all the stuff. And they reminded us that they've got all the stuff with this IO. I mean, glasses, real-time language translation, just so much stuff they announced. So much stuff across all the product lines. Agent mode and Gemini, AI mode in Google search, which to me, I played with it and I was like, why do I need Perplexity? Right. Like immediately I was like, Perplexity's done. I do not see any for Perplexity with AI mode in Google. Right.
Yeah. So I like your Empire Strikes Back comment. I think that they were hamstrung by how much money they were printing for years and years and years, and were kind of fat and happy and not super lean and efficient. And then they got punched in the eye, and OpenAI was beating them, and they had ridiculously stupid early products that were technically fine, but had been sort of overly managed to do things that weren't useful. And they have woken up. And yes, the number of products that they released in one day, it was just like bang, and they caught up on every front.
Every front.
They have the leading model, not that anyone's focused on that anymore, but they have this agent tool that I've been using that's really good.
Yep.
They have this flow thing, which is a way to create full video, but they now can do sound, which Soro can't do sound. So they do sound effects and voice and everything.
The image generation, they fixed the words.
Yes.
Like now you can actually use an image generation tool to make images.
Yeah. And then they are willing to sort of fight against the innovator's dilemma, and they're cannibalizing search directly. Like in the search window, they're pointing you to AI, and that's what they need to do. And it will destroy search, but just search was already going to be destroyed.
It was already being destroyed.
But big companies, there probably aren't any that have been willing to admit that and on this scale do it. And then it frees them up to do things like they now can pull your Gmail records to make search better. And I haven't tried that because it makes me a little nervous, but it's really powerful. They know a ton about me, and if I let them see Gmail. And then the Google Meet thing,
oh God,
which we are going to end with, is game changing. Like last week, I said to someone, I hate Meet. Like, let's just use Zoom.
Yes,
it's
I was on it with you. Yes.
Yeah. And I have changed now because of the innovation that they're bringing, and real time, like in the moment translation from Spanish to English is just a game changer. I mean, I don't care how long you study Spanish, for me to be able to speak English and someone else speak Spanish and we fully understand each other on video is just incredible.
How about basically AI having eyes and you talking to it while you're just like showing it stuff and it's like correcting you?
I have that on my phone right now.
Yeah.
I was using it yesterday and it is really good. I showed it my screen with Google Cloud because I was frustrated with how bad Google Cloud is to the interface. And it knows Google Cloud and helped me, is like a tutor. It's incredible. Really good. And they have, you're right, they have the data with search, Gmail, YouTube. They have all the engineers. They have Waymo as you get into the real world. And they now are willing to cannibalize their own business. And so it's going to be fun. I mean, I think OpenAI also hiring Johnny Ive is really good. And so there's going to be a healthy competition, but it's in the U.S. and it's going to be great for users.
Yeah, no, and look, what they did with IO this week literally is exactly what I've been waiting for, because I personally have not gone nearly as all in on AI as I should, because I'm like, it's just not enough in my tool set yet. You know what I mean? Like, my tool set is, as we've discussed, Google Workspace, Slack, HubSpot, Asana, you know, like this is what I use. Okay. And so I'm not swapping out what I use to all of a sudden be, you know, I still am an old school Google searcher, not because I don't want the better results from, you know, pick your LLM. Yeah. It's just my workflow is my workflow, right? Bring it to me. And that's what they did. Yeah. They brought it to me. And so now I'm like, well, I'm done. Like, that's it. Now I can get productive with it, because it's in everything I use, and it's basically best of breed. So now I have confidence that Google is going to keep up with best of breed. Right. So I'm not going to play these games about,
you can build something and they're not going to like take it off from under and you have to go something else. Yeah.
And dude, the stuff that I played with wasn't even in here. I mean, like the Stitch with Google, we were talking about like UI interfaces. Have you played with that?
I haven't played with it.
Oh my God.
The back end is what's killing me. The UI is not, I mean, it's valuable, but I can't roll product.
Listen, so I know.
I don't care about the UI.
You're a white belt.
Yes,
you know, you're a developer white belt, and it take this is why people quit their jobs and go to boot camps.
Yes.
To get over this frustration that you're in right now. Yeah. So, you know, I wish I could feel bad for you, but I remember sitting in a dark room by myself, beating myself over the head with Apache.
Yeah, with no support, not the same support tools I have.
No. Right. And talking to other programmers and them literally telling me, screw you, like, learn it on your own. So I wish I could feel bad for you, but I don't. Okay, so last thing here is the Google Live language translator, which is, I feel like this was the thing everyone talked about forever, and this is actually going to change the world.
Yeah, and I think it's directly applicable to healthcare. All these other things are derivatively applicable. Like it's going to have an effect. Yeah. But translation is really difficult in healthcare, and you have to find the one unit and wheel it over. And now you can just pull your phone out and say, well, let's just jump on a meet. Yeah. And it automatically does it.
And dude, there are whole companies out here offering these translation services.
That now they just don't exist.
They're gone.
Yeah, right.
They're gone.
They're gone. It's just free.
They're gone.
And that is great for the rest of us. But it's changing the way I think about my investment plans.
The whole this whole thing is changing everything, right? I mean,
and it's very quickly. So we'll put it in the show notes. I really think you should watch the entire 10 minutes, but this is like a 2-minute example or demo of how the English to Spanish translation works. And it's a woman that's speaking, and it's her tone of voice. It's her inflection. It's not a static, like, robotic thing. It mirrors the natural person's pace and tone and inflection in a way that's just really compelling.
Yep, absolutely. So, man, we're almost at an hour and 50 minutes. So there was a lot there. You're out next week. Yes. I got to find a guest host. We'll see who I can pick up. Yep. I've tried twice and failed. If I can't find anybody, it'll just be me reading the news out. Okay. But there will be a show. Promise, there will be a show. And thank you for pulling together a really good show. I hope you have a great time on your trip.
Yeah, great. I'll be listening.
All right, man. Bye.